before, so if I talk fast, let me know. This is the first of two public hearings for the 2024 Community Development Block Grant Program. Community Development Block Grant is federal funds that we get, that the borough gets through the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. Funds have to be used to benefit either areas that are areas of the borough that would be predominantly low, moderate income, or specifically to low, moderate income individuals. Eligible uses are water and sewer line replacement, improvement, construction of affordable housing, housing rehabilitation, construction or reconstruction of public or community facilities, public services that are new or that increase the availability of a particular type of service, street improvements, removal of architectural barriers, economic development. Borough is in a bit of a state because we do not have an area of the borough that is predominantly low and moderate income. The low moderate income population is pretty much spread throughout the borough. If we were to do a housing construction program, if there is demolition of affordable housing, the borough would be responsible for replacing one for one the affordable housing that was demolished. And there's a lot of other restrictions that go with it. It has to be maintained for like 10 years. It has to be affordable. It has to be the same size. You have to house all the people. But generally, the borough has not done a program that demolished any kind of affordable housing, so we've never had to worry about that. We are eligible this year for $150,366 in CDBG funds, which is a little bit lower than what we had last year. We had about $3,400 more. So the purpose of this meeting is to ask for any of your comments on what kind of needs there are in the borough, how we should use the 2024 funds, or if you have questions about the past uses of CDBG funds. Predominantly, the past uses have been for housing rehabilitation or for curb ramps. Housing rehab, we use the CD money for a lot of the delivery costs, like finding out if someone is eligible, doing the inspections, doing the walkthroughs to find out what work needs to be done, doing the environmental testing. We've done 7 properties between 2023 and 2024. There may be fewer homes, but the homes we're doing are in a lot worse shape. Our average cost is $46,406. We are finishing now one of the largest projects we've ever done. It's been exceedingly expensive. It's open to anyone who is to any property that is single-family owner occupied, and the household has to meet the income requirements. So any household whose income is below 80% of the area median income, and I have some numbers if you want to hear them. For curb ramps, we've kind of mixed that up with housing rehab, and we had projects in 2020 and 2022, and 16 ramps were done at intersections and across alleyways. We have a project for 2023 that will be getting underway, and that will do an additional 8 ramps. The idea is to make accessible routes. One of the things about Conshohocken is everything is kind of close to everything else, so people need accessible, safe routes to get to them. So I would entertain any comments that you have. Comments, questions?
Chris, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we do sidewalks?
If we do sidewalks, it has to be done in an area where 51% of the people are low mod income. So what we would have to do is a survey of those of that area, an income survey. And years ago, before I started here even, there was a survey that was done, which was how we were able to repave Hector Street. So if it's not 51% low mod, then no, we can't do it.
Okay.
But doing the curb ramps, that is removing architectural barriers. So
right.
So that's something that is presumed to benefit low, moderate income people, older adults, people with disabilities, ladies with strollers, people who are carrying large packages, that sort of thing. We will accept, for any of you who have something that comes to your mind right after this is done, we will accept written comments on the needs of the borough through September the 3rd. You can address them to me at Borough Hall, which is Chris Stetler at the Borough Admin Building, 400 Fayette Street, or cstetler@conshohockenpa.com or .gov. There will be a second public hearing on the 18th of September at 7 o'clock. Again, this will be to go over how we are planning to use the money, and then you can ask questions or get or make other suggestions. And
Chris, I do have a question.
yeah, sure.
What if you go to a house and it's an elderly couple and they have a live-in person that takes care of them? Do you merge all that together?
No, we do not count the income of the home aid.
Okay.
There's a whole manual of what you can and can't count in income, in determining income, and that's one of the things I don't believe you count. No. So.
Chris, I have a question then too.
Good.
Yes.
For rental units where tenants have issues with their unit that the owner is not taking care of, is there any provision in that to help tenants?
For a long time, we have resisted doing any kind of a rental assistance program. Belief is that if the owner of that property is making money on the property, he should be taking care of it. You could establish something like that. I'm not sure how we'd want to do it because when you get into something like that, the house has to remain available for low and moderate income people for a period of time. We have not had a lot of calls from landlords or residents saying, you know, my rental property is horrible, what can you do about it? If we had a lot of calls about that, or even a few, we'd probably look into it further to see. It's not impossible. It's just a question of if that's a route you want to go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, how do most people that take part in the program find out about the program?
We have done all kinds of stuff. Something is always in the borough newsletter. Something is always on the borough website. We have done mailings to every single family household in the borough. We don't send them to apartment buildings. We have done presentations for the fire company, the police department, just in case people run into situations where they can see that someone needs help. We provided a bunch of stuff to council people, and we did get a good bit back on that. You people know your constituents, so you know, if you know of someone, I will be happy to get you whatever preliminary applications you want. We do not have a long waiting list right now. However, we are at that point between funding. We have money for what we have in process now. We have an application to the state for $250,000 in home money, which is what we use primarily for construction. And then we use CDBG money for delivery and for some construction. We try and do like between 1 and 3 properties with the CD money. It just makes life easier. But we do have to, we have to schedule environmental testing, because we test for lead paint and for radon. If the levels are above the EPA and other thresholds, then we've got to remediate that. And we have to have, pay the inspectors who'll go in and see exactly what we need to do and make sure it's done right. And we have a very small group of contractors right now. We tried to expand it, and we got a lot of people interested right around the time COVID was ending, but none of them have ever bid on any of our projects. So, I will take any suggestions any of you have about how to make sure people know about the program. We recently started accepting applicants who had work done before. Originally, you did it once and that was it. We've had calls from a number of people and advocates from council about people who needed additional help. And what we found was the people who were applying, we had done them 10 to 15 years ago. And the house was fine then. Maybe the heater was in really good shape then. Well, now it's not. So, we are doing it. And I think that may reduce our cost per property a bit, because I don't think they're going to need as much done. Okay. There will be a second hearing on the 18th, and we will accept written comments again, and council will be asked to adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of the application in October, and everything is due on November the 1st, which means it'll go in on October the 31st. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing for the CBDG application process, and we will call to order our monthly voting meeting. So with that, I'll call to order. And Ms. Checo, would you mind doing roll call for us this evening?
Councilmember Shemaleski.
Present.
Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Vice President Kingsley.
Here.
President Sokolowski.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, would everybody rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, prior to our voting session today, Borough Council did hold an executive session on personnel, property, and legal matters. Before we get started, I am looking for any public comment on agenda items this evening. Do we have any public comment? Hearing no public comment, let's move on to our first item on the agenda under land use matters, public hearings and ordinances. This evening we'll be considering authorizing advertisement of an amendment to the group home provisions of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Peters, would you mind giving us a brief overview?
Sure. We discussed this at your work session. This amendment would amend the borough zoning ordinance to address a current inconsistency in the ordinance. That specifically is that with respect to group homes for individuals protected by federal law, the zoning ordinance in one section suggests that those are permitted by right, and then in a subsequent section suggests that they are only permitted by special exception. This clarifies that in the specific context of homes protected by federal law, it would be a by right use, and then for any other group home, i.e. those not protected by federal law, it would remain a special exception under the borough zoning ordinance. If you would advertise it for adoption this evening, it would go to your planning commission, the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and then we'd be back for a hearing at a later meeting. That's it.
Does council have any questions related to authorizing an advertisement of the amendment? Hearing no questions, could I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of the amendment to the group home provision of the zoning ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda falls under our consent agenda. We have two items for that. The first item is to approve and adopt the July 17th regular meeting minutes. The second item is to approve the July ending treasurer's report and accounts payable. So with that, I would like a motion to approve and adopt the July 17th regular meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next motion I'll be looking for is to approve the July ending treasurer's report and accounts payable in the amount of $2,959,312.35.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to unfinished business. The first item would be to consider appointing an applicant to the EAC. We have an applicant, Evan Campbell, who interviewed before us, and I'm looking for a motion to appoint Evan Campbell to the EAC.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider reappointing B. Bergvale and Company, PC, to conduct the borough's annual financial audit for the fiscal years ending in 2024, 2025, and 2026.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Or-
second it.
Before we call a vote, I
Sorry.
just want to call out the dollar amounts for each year, just because they are different.
Sorry, Madam President.
No
Go right
worries.
ahead.
So 2024 would be 23,500, 2025 would be 24,000, and then 2026 would be 24,000. So a little bit of an increase from 24 to 25, and then stable in 26. So I have a motion and a second
Yes.
on those numbers?
Yes.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. It's my fault, because I didn't read it fast enough. Next item on the agenda is to consider authorizing advertisement for the RFP for engineering services for 2023 CBDG curb ramp project. I'm looking for a motion to authorize the RFP for the engineering services.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider awarding a bid for the Green Light Go project. Anyone have any questions on Green Light Go, or are we okay to move forward with motions? Okay. I'll be looking for a motion this evening to award the bid for the Green Light Go project to Lenny Electric Corporation in the amount of $1,963,844. $1,963,844.05. I always get caught up on
I'm
that.
sorry, can I ask a quick question? I apologize. We are funding the full gamut of the project. We're not, Brian, can you say there were a couple of things we could have cut back to lessen the cost? We're going for the full,
The bid was,
for the full
you
project.
have to accept the bid that came in.
Okay.
If there are any change orders that would decrease the cost, then
No, I just want to make sure that we're covering everything.
you will have to, you either have to accept or not accept the bid.
Okay,
document.
perfect. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. So where did I leave off? I was having trouble with the
Your business.
$1.9 million. So I need a motion for the $1,963,844.05 for the following intersections. West Elm and Caldwell, the amount for that area is $648,013.70. East Elm and Harry at $504,584.75. West Elm and Maple at $443,158.60, and West Elm and Oak, $368,087. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item up on the agenda is under new business. A couple items under new business. So the first one is to consider approving Resolution 2024-17, extending temporary parking regulations specifically at a stop sign at West First and Maple and a handicap parking space in the area of 10th East 6th Avenue. Any questions on those two items for the resolution? Okay, hearing no questions, could I have a motion to accept Resolution 2024-17?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item of new business is to consider authorizing a one-year extension of the 2021 CDBG contract.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second.
Motion and a second. No questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider authorizing a one-year extension on the 2019 home contract.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the disclosure of a potential conflict of interest related to the housing rehab program application and authorize the borough solicitor to prepare a legal opinion related to the potential conflict.
Steph, could you just fill us in on what that conflict is?
Yes, there are provisions in the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Program which prohibits funds to be utilized by any individuals that may have a conflict of interest. Marty Eckert is a resident of the borough, and he has applied for the Housing Rehab Program. Marty also serves on the Civil Service Commission. In an abundance of caution, we are just clarifying that there is no conflict of interest at a public meeting, and also asking that you engage your solicitor, Mike Peters, to draft a letter which indicates per law that there actually is not a conflict of interest either. We've then had that confirmation discussed in public, and then Mike will draft the letter, which basically gets sent to the Community Development Block Grant staff and will remain on file. Therefore, Marty Eckert can participate in the home program, and we can help them with the services that we would like to be able to do.
Any questions for Steph or the solicitor related to that?
And Madam President, I'll note that conflicts of interest under the program, the individual has to actually exercise some level of discretion. Obviously, Mr. Eckert does not. So I have concluded that there is no conflict of interest and would have no problem writing a letter to that effect.
Great. Thank you. All right. So hearing no other questions, could I have a motion to authorize our borough solicitor to prepare a legal opinion indicating that there is no conflict of interest with Marty Eckert's application per state or local laws and regulations?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider approving Resolution 2024-18, and this would approve supplemental appropriations for the purchase of a wood chipper. Steph, would you like to explain to us the reasoning for the request?
Yes. As you are all aware, recently, over the course of the last year, we have had periods of extreme weather that now, with these more severe storms, come with more severe winds. And what we are finding is with those severe winds, we are having excess tree damage in the borough, specifically with trees that are falling into the right-of-way, roadways, and creating a safety hazard. We do have a small chipper. It is not meant for dealing with the severity of the damage from the trees that we're experiencing which is now the norm in terms of the weather. And therefore, we are having to contact our contractor, and they are dealing with all their other clients, and therefore there's a delay in providing service in terms of removing what needs to be removed to create a safe environment after the conclusion of the storm. So the chipper that we have is insufficient to handle what we currently have to. That really is for yard waste purposes. This is for actual tree removal. We have a lot of old trees that are coming down in these storms and creating an issue. And we want to be, as we have done across the board, when it comes to operations and emergency management, we find it very prudent to be almost self-sufficient when it comes to these matters. And I think given the state of what we have seen and what is forecasted to come, we're going to need this piece of equipment for our public services department so that Frank and his team can do what they need to do. When they're out from 8 p.m. until 3 a.m. trying to rectify tree issues, and they basically can't, and then we're trying to create safe environments, it would be much better for the borough and the borough residents if we were able to just have the equipment that could handle it in-house and move on from a storm. We have the capital funds available in Fund 18. There are specific items and initiatives that are in there in terms of contingencies, and therefore we think that this is a priority for this year. And if we have a piece of equipment that is available for purchase that we can actually get and put into our fleet and start utilizing it. So the request this evening is that you would approve the supplemental appropriation by resolution and utilize roughly $83,000 of your capital fund out of Fund 18 for its purchase.
Do we currently pay the contractor, I assume you mentioned that we have a contractor when we can't handle the trees, so we pay them?
It's a professional service, So we utilize a contractor that we've used for many, many years. Every once in a while, as you go through cycles, 4 to 5 years, we'll look at prices for contractors, but we do have a municipal contractor that handles tree removal for us currently.
So the assumption is we buy this and that would kind of eliminate that cost?
It would eliminate some of the cost, so it's not gonna eliminate all of
Sure.
it, because there are some trees that are in specific areas that you need a professional to do. But this is mostly being utilized for trees that have come down, that are already, so we're not taking them down, they're already down, and we need to get them out of harm's way for our residents to be able to continue to live in the borough.
We had two come down on West 10th the last storm, and it was
Oh, yeah.
very
Oh, yeah.
detrimental.
I mean,
It
it's
was-
there's
If the
no
guys were
question.
out and they cut it up, in fact, we could ship that, that's
Um,
great.
Ms. Checo, you've mentioned the operational issues, especially as they relate to emergencies, with having to hire an outside contractor, and obviously they have competing priorities if another municipality, say, called them first. Do you know how much we've spent on contractors this year?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. I can get you that number. I can tell you that it's not just a matter of money, it's a matter of time. So we have set the expectation that we bounce back from severe weather, and while that might not always be possible, instead of allocating, $15,000 for potential services, it's now in-house being handled. You've invested in a piece of equipment that you're not investing that money on an annual basis. It's just here.
So what do they currently do now? Like if we can't get the municipal contractor out there, we just kind of house it until we can get them.
We make the area as safe as we can. Barricades, caution tape, police force. You're talking about all different departments are then involved. Fire's involved, police are involved, public services are involved.
If we approve this, when would we take ownership, take delivery?
The piece of equipment is ready for delivery, correct?
Probably Tuesday one.
Yeah.
Okay. How long does a wood chipper last?
What's the life cycle of a wood chipper?
The things that do not last on those are the blades. The blades have to be replaced. But the company that we use, they've had chippers, and they use them every day. They've been chippers 10 years old. We got a recommendation for this from one of the professional companies that does only tree service. The one that we do have, we didn't pay for. That was a D.
It's a D,
right?
yeah.
So we bought what we could afford with that money. And that was like $35,000 we got. But it was meant for mostly things like yard waste. Now the size of the trees that are coming down and causing, you could have a tree on a one-way street, block off that street for 2 or 3 days if we can't move it. And all the people in Public Works went to a professional training class on how to use chainsaws and have all the equipment to do the cutting, but still getting it off to the side of the road in the middle of a one-way street, there's really nowhere to put it. So the one that we have is, I think, a 6-inch blade, and the one that we want to get is 15.
What about training?
They get trained on everything. The company that provides it, they're out of Ben Salem. The company that provides the equipment goes through the initial training on it. Unfortunately, our guys probably had more time on the wood chipper and those kind of things and chainsaws than a lot of other municipalities around here. But if you just drive around town, you see the dilemma that we can get into if we have 4 or 5 of these go down on a straight line wind day. We've had 2 or 3, and they do a good job, but there's just really nowhere to put it. That becomes the issue. They're falling on cars, so there's cars on both sides of the street. You can't put it in the middle of the street. You got to wait for the company to come out. And they're a great company. The contractor that we deal with is good, really good, and he's been here since even before my time here. But he also does Waymarsh Township. And just take a ride through Waymarsh Township and see what he's going through. And then any of the other major contractors like the Osplons and all that, they have to deal with PICO, and they do work for other large major utility companies. So being self-sufficient, and you've heard me talked about this 100 times. It's something that we've accomplished for the most part. This will be part of it. We could have 2 crews doing this instead of 1 crew, which is basically what the conversation was after the last. We have 15 guys out there, but we only have 1 wood chipper, and it's too small, and they all have to stand behind it. This actually comes with a winching system, so a heavy tree can be lifted and pushed in by 2 people.
We talked a lot about the reasons for having this for emergency purposes. Would this enable us to do any preventative measures then, say, like we start noticing there's a lot of dead trees in an area that we would be able, that would create an unsafe issue for public safety, that we would be able to handle that sort of thing?
Well, I think we have 2 scenarios currently going on where we have issued warning letters, notices of violations to homeowners, advising them if they don't take care of the situation with their tree, that we would step in and then either charge them or leave their property. It's gotten to that point. We have some trees that are overhanging houses, neighboring houses, and it becomes problematic. I live in an area that has some of those very large trees, and it is daunting when you have a big storm. You're wondering where that could end up.
But the tree is the
To
property.
answer your question is yes.
Okay.
We can handle it we can handle it in any situation, emergency, or if we had to do something at Sutcliffe Park, for instance, any of our large parks.
Understanding that trees are the responsibility of the property owner. And we don't like to lien properties, but if we have to, we will.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing no other questions, could I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-18, approving supplemental appropriation in the amount of $83,309.50 for the purpose of a wood chipper?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving payment certificate number 1 for the Sutcliffe Park Trail Reconstruction and Stormwater BMP project. Any questions on that project at this point? Hearing no questions, could I have a motion to approve certificate number 1 in the amount of $19,937.34?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is under public comment. Do we have any elected officials that have any information they'd like to discuss at this time that they may have received from residents about concerns for anything? This is kind of a new thing we're going to do.
I do, Madam President.
Go ahead, sir.
This past weekend, we had the Simon's Heart Conchi Classic Bike Race, and it was through wards 2 and 3, I believe. So we did have to shut down traffic. A lot of people did have to adjust their schedules on that day in order to accommodate the race. But I think overwhelmingly there was a positive response of people saying, we're glad this came back because Conshohocken used to have bike races and now it's returned. And that they were happy about the turnout and expectations for this first year of it, and hoping that they can make the event bigger in the following year. So
Great.
just wanted to mention that.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing nothing else that was sent in to our elected officials.
Actually, you know what? Sorry, I just thought of this. I did have somebody bring up they were concerned about the volume of double parking on First Avenue, on Fayette, right in front of Boathouse, specifically revolving around lunch and dinner times. It was, it could be Uber Eats, Grubhub, whatever. Double parking there to run in and get it. But the person did say to me they parked in one of the 15-minute parking spaces and were promptly double parked in and ran in, got their food, and then spent the next 10 minutes waiting to actually be let out by the people who double parked. Just something to bring up as we move forward with the parking signage and things like that. It was, I've seen it, and a lot of times I'm not affected by it, but I have driven past there a lot on lunchtimes, and you do see it more frequently now, where there's a lot of double parking going on in that specific section coming up Fayette. So I thought it was a worthwhile thing to mention as we kind of look at, again, things about moving people towards parking garages and what to do in that area. Just thought I'd bring that up.
And then I just had a resident reach out about the Second Avenue Park project, and they were concerned with closing the road down permanently and not allowing it to be open. So there was no vote for that, so we did have the conversation via email.
On the flip side of that, I did have residents actually tell me they love the design of that too. So they thought it was super cool. As far as how it was designed, the layout of it, I did receive a good amount of positive feedback from that as well.
All right, anyone else? All right, hearing no other comments that were brought into council via email, I will call for public comment from our audience. Anyone have any public comment? Okay, hearing no public comment, I will adjourn this evening's meeting. Oh, shoot. I am trying to get out on vacation. I won't adjourn the meeting. I am going to ask Mr. Mayor to go over his activities with us.
Thank you, Tina. So we had a really fun Coffee with a Cop last week. Brunch was a wonderful host, and we had a great complement of officers. So I think it really goes to our vision of making sure our emergency services interact with the public, so that we get to know them, they get to know us, and we have a community that will ultimately be safer. So there are a couple really fun interactions with like a little girl that was, really excited to come, and then, saw everyone and got really shy, that kind of thing. So thank you to Dave and all the officers that joined us. We will certainly continue to do this. I think it's important that we're continually out in the community. And then we had our final sprinkler night at the B Fields. And we also had, I think, our first actual Conshohocken National Night Out. Usually we partner with Upper Merion or another national night out, so it's nice that we have our own. And it was just a really nice, it was kind of like the perfect environment because we had the fire department, we had the police, and again, we're having this really wonderful community interaction and great use of the renovated B Fields. So just another wonderful opportunity for residents to engage with us on the emergency services side. So thank you to everyone involved in organizing, to everyone that showed up. And then this is it's such a fun event. We during COVID, Sarah and I were trying to find a way to support all of the local businesses. So we started I believe it was a virtual bingo over Zoom where we bought gift certificates to all the businesses and just wanted to support them and encourage people to continue to eat out. And then eventually we made it live, and it just continued to be very popular. So we have continued it as an event, and we are having it on September 19th at the VFW, and we'll continue to, the prizes will be gifts to our businesses to sort of honor where we came from, and we'll have a bunch of celebrity guest callers, probably quite a few folks in this room. So please come and support and hang out. It's always a really fun night. We're doing it a little later in the year in September, so we moved the time to 5:30 just to capture as much daylight as we can. But it's always fun to put on, always a great night. And then I actually forgot, we're also doing our paper shredding event on September 28th. So I will send all that information to Steph to post on our borough social media, and I'll post on my social media. And then we will, I can't believe, gear up for our fall events already. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Ralph, do you have anything this evening? Stacy?
I'm good, thank you.
Kathleen? Anita?
Yeah, I'd like to fill everyone in on the Marywood Park House. We are getting ready to do the roof. The construction has not been set for a date yet, but it was approved in the 2024 budget as an item for the roof. And then as a committee, we will discuss how we're going to do the trim and paint the front. And it's starting to look like we're actually moving forward with getting this house under nice conditions.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Adrian?
Yes, this Friday at 7:45 p.m., not a.m., the movie in the night park will be at Marywood Park. This is done in partnership with the Hispanic Heritage Association. They're going to be showing Coco. Those who don't know, it's a Disney Pixar movie that focuses a bit on Mexican culture. So it's a really cool movie, very fun. It's free for all the kids. They're also going to have the snack shack out there, so you can buy drinks, but it is also BYOB. Bring your own blanket so that you have a place to sit, okay? So we really appreciate the borough being able to put on these events for people to go and enjoy in the park for free.
Thank you. Okay. And just a reminder, tomorrow is our last summer concert in the park, and that's in Marywood Park as well. Last week's was really good. I mean, they've all been great, but yeah, I got the opportunity to hear some last week. So, so tomorrow night is our last concert, and then I just want to say that I think many of us were able to attend the bike race and walk around and really interact with the community that was out on the streets and cheering on all the different heats of the race. I think one of my favorites was the family one. And there was a little guy who did the whole circle, and I don't know if anybody knows Spring Mill Avenue and has ridden a bike up the hill in Spring Mill Avenue. It's a long, slight, yeah, and it's tough. And he did it, and he wanted to give up. He kept telling his dad, I can't, but he had everybody cheering him on, and he really, he made it up to the top. So that was a lot of fun. All right, anyone else? Hearing no one else, I will call meeting adjourned.